If you've clicked on this video, it's probably because you have a rough running vehicle. Your idle is probably rough. Let's say you have a misfire. Let's say it lasts for the entire time you drive your vehicle, or possibly just in the very beginning after you start it, and then it goes away. Either way, in this video, I'm gonna show you what may very well be the problem, or at least be part of the problem. Here we have my 1995 GMC Suburban. This thing only has about 84,000 original miles on it. It's got the 5.7 liter throttle body injected V8. Looking under the hood here, you can see I've already done a little bit of work. It wasn't much, it really just included removing the air cleaner assembly as well as the part that I'm going to be talking about in this video. Now, before I tell you just what that part is, let me first start by saying I am someone who likes to conquer potential problems. I like to fix things before they're broken. Things that are pretty common wear items, pretty common issues before they actually become issues. So in a lot of my videos, I get comments like, why are you replacing that? It wasn't broken. Well, it may have been a part that most likely will break and break very soon. And I don't want that part to break while I'm out on the trail in the middle of nowhere. And so I take the approach of let's fix it now because I know it will break. In this case, however, I failed to heed my own advice. The part we're talking about is the Egr valve. Every single vehicle has one. Some are computerized and some are just vacuum controlled. The one in my truck, for example, is vacuum controlled. A very simple part. It's got a diaphragm that when vacuum is applied, opens up a valve allowing exhaust gases to recirculate back into the engine. The problem is that diaphragm can fail. It'll dry out, crack, and not hold a vacuum. And the thing is, on these older Egr valves, it's very easy to check that. And I have checked it on this truck very recently, actually. But it was an original part, and it was bound to fail. I should have replaced it before, but here I am doing it now after it has failed. So let's talk about what I have replaced. I've recently done a complete tune-up on this truck. All new spark plugs, spark plug wires, cap and rotor, coil, everything that has to do with the ignition system has been replaced. But today we're gonna focus solely on the Egr valve, the exhaust gas recirculation valve. Here we have the old and the new Egr valves. If I take this old valve and turn it over, you can see the diaphragm mechanism right here. I can use my thumbs and press it down, and you can even hear the air flowing. Now this diaphragm is supposed to hold air or vacuum. So if I press it in with my thumbs and cover this port right here, it should hold itself still, which it's absolutely not doing. I've got my finger covering the port. I can press it both in and it returns. It is not holding vacuum, which means this part is completely failed. Just to show you exactly what it's supposed to do, let's press in this new one, much tighter. I'll hold the end here, and you can see it doesn't return until I let it go. This one is functioning exactly like it should. So looking at the top of the engine here, this is exactly where the Egr valve goes. Yeah, right there where that yellow tape is. This new Egr valve does come with a new gasket, and you definitely want to make sure you replace it. The old gasket came off with the old Egr valve, and so I definitely will be replacing the gasket in this case. I suppose if your old gasket is stuck onto that intake manifold, you could probably get away with reusing it, but if it came off really easily, why not replace it? Okay, here's the mounting surface for our new part. I'm going to take my new gasket and simply slide it right where it needs to be. And now I'm going to take the new Egr valve and just slide it over the two posts, and it seems like it fits perfect. The only thing left is to use the two 1/2-inch nuts to tighten it down. And with this new Egr valve tightened down, all I have to do is reattach the vacuum hose. The job is now completed and everything is put back together. So at this point, I know you're probably thinking, well, that's all fine and dandy, but what happens if I don't drive a mid-90s GM V8 vehicle? Well, all Egr valves are pretty much the same. They're either vacuum-powered diaphragms, like the one I just changed, or it's completely electronic, in which case the computer will tell you when it fails. Hopefully. And the only main difference between changing out the two is most likely going to be, well, number one, the cost, But I was gonna say the vacuum hose versus an electronic connection. Also, my EGR valve was a little bit tight to get to, but relatively easy for me to change. Yours might not be so easy. If you have a front-wheel drive car, your engine may be turned sideways, the EGR valve may be way in the back firewall area, or it may be extremely easy right up front, right where you can see it and get to it. If you do have a fully electronic EGR valve, most likely your computer will throw a check engine light on your dash if it fails. Hopefully that's the case and you'll be able to know exactly what failed, when that EGR valve went bad, and you can change it out right away. In my case, I happened to notice that every once in a while, it wasn't all the time, I would start my truck and I would notice a very slight misfire. It would go away after about a minute or two, but it was annoying, so it caused me to investigate. I went to check all the spark plugs. I got through the 4 spark plugs on the passenger side when I decided to just depress that EGR valve to make sure it was holding a vacuum, and lo and behold, it wasn't. The last time I had checked that, which was maybe 6 to 8 months ago, it was holding a vacuum. So I knew right away what very well may be the actual cause of my misfire when I first start my engine. Hopefully that's the case. I'm about to start this thing up and check it out. Okay guys, here we go. The last time this truck ran was a few days ago, so this should be a pretty good test. Okay, that's different. All right, well, right away I can tell that the truck started a little differently than it normally does. Number one, there wasn't a misfire there, which is good, but only time will tell because, like I said, that didn't happen every single time I started it. It was really random. And the other thing is, the RPMs seemed a little bit lower upon startup. You know, when the engine's kind of revving out to warm up and everything, it just seemed like the RPMs were a little lower than they normally had been recently. Only time will tell if that corrects the random misfire that I've been noticing lately, but regardless, we do know that that EGR valve had failed, so it needed to be replaced anyway. So if you have a rough running engine, maybe a random misfire, or a check engine code saying that it's your EGR valve, you probably need to replace your EGR valve, or at least check it. If you have a vacuum powered one like mine and it's easy to get to, it may be very easy for you to check. If not, I don't really know what to tell you other than it's probably okay unless your computer is saying that it isn't. Okay, so it's been about a day since I started this thing up. Let's see what it sounds like when she starts now. All right, no misfire at all, and it's idling nice and smooth right now. I know it does have that high idle because it's warming up, of course, but there is no misfire whatsoever. That's good. The truck is still warming up a little bit, so we'll see what it feels like when it's totally warm. Sitting here at a stoplight idling, it is idling nice and smooth. Look at this thing right here. Wow. That thing's awesome. It looks like we're just about warmed up here. My thermostat just opened. All right, so we are totally warmed up. I watched the thermostat open. We are up to temperature. Let's stop at the stop sign and see how she idles. Definitely very smooth, and I would argue even smoother than it used to idle, but I know that is somewhat of a placebo effect. I'm gonna have to wait a while before I can really get a sense for how it idles now. But overall, of course, the valve was bad, and I think that it absolutely needed to be replaced. And yes, I would say that it's making my truck idle even better than it did before, which wasn't bad. Well guys, it's that time again. It is the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope it was at least entertaining for you. If it was, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. And also, if you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing. Also, if you have any input, be sure to put it in the comment section below. It not only helps me, but helps the whole community. So for me, I'm Jimmy. The channel is One Road, and I will see you in the next one.